not mince words when it comes to describing how he feels about the president.
Here is a guy who only found his conscience and his point of view after he got unceremoniously sacked.
He does get a little petty. I don't think we need a book where he's calling out the president for his height and the size of his hand.
Welcome to Fox and Friends on this Sunday morning. We begin with a Fox News alert. Brand new video coming in showing a U.S. fast attack submarine launching missiles from the Mediterranean Sea, striking targets in Syria.
This as international reaction, if we care about that, continues to pour in over the U.S.-led attack targeting the Assad regime's chemical weapons program.
Connor Powell is live in Jerusalem with the latest. Good morning, Connor.
Well, good morning. Obviously, there are mixed reactions depending on where you sit on the side of this conflict in Syria. U.S. allies Saudi Arabia and Israel praising the move by President Trump to order the strikes against the Assad regime. But other condemnation also coming in. And again, not surprisingly, Iran and Russia condemning the move by the Pentagon, with the Russian ambassador to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, saying the United States and its allies continue to demonstrate the blatant disregard to international law. It was shameful to hear that in how justifying an aggression, an article of the U.S. Constitution was mentioned. We're also starting to hear military reaction from U.S. allies also starting to appear in newspapers here in the region. The images on your screen show the before and after pictures of a U.S. A site that was targeted by the U.S. in Syria. And while the pictures show completely destroyed building and facility, the reduced to rubble, there are comments in newspapers here in the region questioning whether how effective these strikes were. The question really is they were so limited in nature, according to U.S. military commanders who are allies of the United States, that they were so limited that they just may not be all that effective in actually preventing the Assad regime again from carrying out any type of chemical attack. That's the big question, is how much of an impact will this actually have on the Assad regime? Politically, it's being praised by U.S. allies, but military commanders of U.S. allies, guys, are also raising questions about what more could have been done and maybe should have been done as well.
Connor, thank you very much for that insight this morning. And of course, so we saw that. You see that picture in the UN of countries voting for and against. Russia tried to introduce a resolution. There it is right there. There's the Russian ambassador to the UN on the left, not raising his hand. You've got Sweden, the UK, and the US, of course, condemning or voting down this Russian attempt to make it look bad. I mean, ultimately, only 3 states voted for what Russia introduced. China, not our friend, and Bolivia, a client state of China.
And the language of that resolution, just so you know, is condemns the aggression against Syrian Arab Republic by the U.S. and its allies in violation of international law and UN charter.
Well, it's, you listen to Connor Powell's report there, and the question that still remains, we talked a lot about this yesterday, was this enough? And is it possible for this same thing, for this chemical attack to happen a year from now? Are we going to experience this all over again? So we heard more from the administration yesterday, doubling down on the success they felt of the airstrikes, but also that they are locked and loaded. We heard that from Nikki Haley, ambassador of the UN, and also Vice President Mike Pence about being on the wrong side of history directly at Russia. Take a listen to this.
Our message to Russia is you're on the wrong side of history. That it's time for Russia to get the message that President Trump delivered last night, that you're known by the company you keep.
I spoke to the president this morning, and he said if the Syrian regime uses this poisonous gas again, the United States is locked and loaded. When our president draws a red line, our president enforces the red line.
And Ambassador Haley, there you see standing firm in that body, a few blocks away at the United Nations, where really reality is sometimes just divorced from when you look at what happened there, and so many countries really not standing with the U.S.
Well, of course. So I don't care. These are the non-permanent members of the UN Security Council that voted. I can't even pronounce it. What is it?
Côte d'Ivoire.
Côte d'Ivoire. Ethiopia, Kazakhstan, Kuwait, Netherlands, Peru, Poland, Sweden. Count me as don't care. What I want, what is in America's best interest, and what I don't love the phrase wrong side of history. Obama used it all the time. It's used to sort of flaunt against your opponents. But in this particular case, usually leftists like to enforce international norms because they're obsessed with the international community. In this case, President Trump enforced this international norm because without doing so, you can't be credible with Iran. You can't be credible with North Korea. You can't be credible with China, who's building islands in the South China Sea. So a limited precision strike, it's not going to get rid of all Assad's capabilities. But if they're not waking up in Damascus and in Moscow this morning, realizing that America will act, then they haven't gotten the full message. And that is the powerful message to me of these strikes.
Well, not everyone.
Our allies in ordering this strike against Assad, but I fear that when the dust settles, this strike will have been seen as a weak military response, and Assad will have paid a small price for using chemical weapons yet again.
And then you got Senator Bill Nelson, Democrat from Florida. He said, "This is a Democrat. I support the attack because Assad must be held accountable for the use of chemical weapons."
This is Representative Thomas Massie says, I haven't read France's or Britain's constitution, but I've read ours, and nowhere in it is presidential authority to strike Syria.
So I actually think the president threaded the needle properly between all those sides. So Lindsey Graham is a thoughtful guy on a lot of levels. He wants regime change. I mean, he's been wanting to arm the rebels. He's been wanting to get rid of Assad. He can talk about a plan, but it's not clear what the plan is once you've cut off the head of the Syrian regime, as you talked about yesterday, Abby. So you don't want to go that far. And then Bill Nelson, he's running for re-election in Florida. He wants to be seen as thoughtful. He's running against in a tough re-elect. And then, of course, Thomas Massie. Article 2 in the War Powers Act show that a commander-in-chief has the latitude to take eminent actions to defend America. Then you go back to Congress for authorization. So I think this president's gotten it right.
Seeing these responses, even if you do go to Congress, what is that going to result in? Seems like we're not going to get through anything. I mean, if the president was waiting for congressional approval to launch those airstrikes on Friday night, I don't think that would have ultimately happened because you read these responses on the same page.
And I think we have to look back to the Obama administration, for which failed to hold the Syrian government accountable for these attacks. There was broad support amongst Democrats for enforcing Obama's original red line. So now you're having this mixed reaction because it's Democrats and Republicans alike said, well, we had to do something. And you know what I think, to your point, Pete, that the president struck the right tone. He was stuck between not getting involved in yet another Bush extended interventionist war and not appearing weak like President Obama. And that's the needle that he thread. I thought the most telling moment we had yesterday in that press conference that we aired here was when Lieutenant General McKenzie said, I've got 3 words to describe this: precise, overwhelming, effective. And that appears, by all accounts, to have been the case.
And I think you have to think about the advisors behind closed doors with him. So you've got John Kelly, you've got John Bolton, you've got Mattis, you've got Dempsey. Serious people who take the threats to America seriously. They want to make sure we don't over-provoke Russia in this particular instance, but knowing that we have to send a signal to Russia, which has clearly been received. By the way, Russia yesterday saying they've got a planned response to what we're going to do. So we'll monitor what Russia may or may not do. But
they've got to be careful about their response.
Of course they do. They don't want.
They've heard from Nikki Haley. We're locked and loaded, and we're going to respond if we have to.
That's exactly right. So,
but if you read more context about how the decision was made to ultimately strike Syria, it seems like it really did come from President Trump. That last Monday, after seeing the images, seeing what had happened with these, innocent young kids, he was so upset about it, so heartbroken, that he then went to his general and said, what do we do about this? And then
they gave him 5 different target packages, target sets, and he had a series of deliberate meetings. So for that left-wing critique of this president, it's chaos and he does whatever he wants. No, he went through a deliberative approach and chose what he thought was the best for American interests, which is what he was elected to do.
All right, well, before Friday night, what was everyone talking about, Griff? Everyone was talking about this James Comey book that is being released on Tuesday, and the interview that everyone's been waiting for with George Stephanopoulos. It's airing tonight, the 2020 special, and we're continuing to get more pieces about what is in this book, and some of them are raising a lot of eyebrows. This one in particular, where James Comey is talking about, remember, releasing the email for the Clinton investigation just days before the election, reopening that case. George Stephanopoulos asked him about the decision to release that letter, and here's how that went.
Hillary Clinton's convinced that that letter defeated her.
I hope not. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I sure hope not. But the honest answer is it wouldn't change the way I think about it. Try to realize that I'm not trying to help a candidate or hurt a candidate. I'm trying to do the right thing.
At some level, wasn't the decision to reveal influenced by your assumption that Hillary Clinton was going to win?
I don't remember consciously thinking about that, but it must have been, because I was operating in a world where Hillary Clinton was going to beat Donald Trump. And so I'm sure that it was a factor. And if I hide American people, she'll be illegitimate the moment she's elected.
If you knew that letter would elect Donald Trump, you'd still send it?
I would. If I ever start considering whose political fortunes will be affected by a decision, we're done. We're no longer that group in America that is apart from the partisans and that can be trusted. We're just another player in the tribal battle.
So if you're like me, you'll be watching Life, Liberty, and Levin at 10 p.m. tonight on Sunday. But we'll bring you the highlights on Monday on Fox and Friends, of course.
But not everyone agrees with that, because here he's talking about the DOJ and the FBI. That's an institution that should always be apolitical, that should be above any sort of politics. And you look at just in the recent months and in the last 2 years of people that have been fired or demoted in some way from the FDOJ. Clearly, there are some serious issues that were present there. And the institution, I mean, I think a lot of people are questioning that.
Yeah, you know, I had a chance to look at an advance copy and peruse 50 or 60 pages of it. And what's going to be fascinating is how it's received, because what a lot of people are looking for is sort of a setting the record straight account from former FBI Director James Comey. But what you end up with is an awful lot of what many will perceive as sort of a sanctimonious part. One thing he talks about, you know, imagine being on your deathbed and wanting to have done the right thing, and so there's not quite as much record and fact setting there.
Also, not a lot of policy, not a lot of legality. If you read a lot of the pieces of the book that have been released, most of it's tabloid. Most of it is how he feels personally about President Trump, talking about tanning and other things.
Well, that's what sells books. He's trying to hold two things constant at once. One, he's above everything. I'm sanctimonious, but I was living in a world where Hillary Clinton was going to be president of the United States.
Right.
My wife and my daughter went to the Hillary Clinton Women's March. I mean, he's clearly in it, but trying to be above it doesn't really work.
Well, the media is up in arms after the president tweeted "Mission accomplished."
Mission accomplished. Really not a wise thing to tweet.
What does mission accomplished mean?
Mission accomplished. Now, that's an interesting choice of words.
Another overblown reaction from the media? We'll break it down ahead. Plus, a damning new report by the DOJ Inspector General blasts Andrew McCabe for misleading investigators. Ron DeSantis is a member of the House Judiciary and Oversight Committee. He is here next. Pour a cup of coffee. We'll be right back.
At Safe Flight Auto Glass, we know that when you're spending time with the grandkids, every minute counts. And you don't have time for a cracked windshield. That's why we show you exactly when we'll be there, saving you time so you can keep saving the world.
Safe Flight Repair, Safe Flight Replace.
Here you go, little guy. A cockroach can survive submerged underwater for 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. Not getting in today.
Terminix, defenders of home.
If you just sign that first
I'm
one
so
there.
sorry. I don't feel comfortable signing that.
I don't get the math here.
Was this the same car we talked about?
What's this dealer preparation fee?
I'm so sorry. This just is not
what we talked about.
Get the car without the car salesman. Carvana, the new way to buy a car.
When it comes to strong bones, are you on the right path? We have postmenopausal osteoporosis and a high risk for fracture. So with our doctors, we chose Prolia to help make our bones stronger. Only Prolia helps strengthen bones by stopping cells that damage them with one shot every 6 months.
Do not take Prolia if you have low blood calcium, are pregnant, are allergic to it, or take Xgeva. Serious allergic reactions like low blood pressure, trouble breathing, throat tightness, face, lip, or tongue swelling, rash, itching, or hives have happened. Tell your doctor about dental problems, as severe jawbone problems may happen, or new or unusual pain in your hip, groin, or thigh, as unusual thigh bone fractures have occurred. Speak to your doctor before stopping Prolia, as spine and other bone fractures have occurred. Prolia can cause serious side effects, like low blood calcium, serious infections which could need hospitalization, skin problems, and severe bone, joint, or muscle pain.
If your bones aren't getting stronger, isn't it time for a new direction? Why wait? Ask your doctor about Prolia.
This is a Fox News alert. Mixed reaction from Congress following the U.S.-led strikes on Syria. Some lawmakers accusing President Trump of failing to get congressional approval ahead of the attacks, as others claim he didn't need it.
Joining us now with his thoughts is Florida GOP Congressman and gubernatorial candidate Ron DeSantis. Great to have you with us. Good morning. All right, so there is a lot of mixed reaction from Congress about these airstrikes. Some saying he didn't go far enough. Some saying that he didn't have the authority to not get approval from Congress. Where do you fall on this?
Well, it seems to me that the strikes did what they were intended to do. They seem to be proportional in response, but they seem to be effective. I think we'll get more information as time goes by. But I think the larger point here is that this president is somebody unlike President Obama, who when he says something, he follows through. And it's not just in holding Assad accountable for using gas. He's also done it in other areas, such as recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital and standing up to Kim Jong-un. So in terms of presidential leadership, I think the president helped himself with this. I do think, though, it's important that we not get mired into Syria. And I don't think the president wants to do that, because I think that there's no real victory there, given all the disastrous the things that are on the ground there right now that Obama basically left President Trump. But in terms of the strikes, I think they did what they were intended to do.
Do you think he needed congressional approval?
Probably not in this instance. I think when we have troops in the area and other parts of Syria, if you have chemical weapons being used, I think defending people that we have in the region is probably enough of a reason under Article 2 for him to have acted.
Congressman, let me ask you about this scathing report by the Inspector General out of the DOJ that just blasts Andrew McCabe. What is your reaction to that?
It's just absolutely devastating. I mean, remember, we're going to be having to listen to Jim Comey with his book and do the interview. What did Comey say just 2 months ago? He was praising McCabe, said he stood tall, said he was an example of what everyone wanted. This report demonstrates that McCabe was somebody that not just that he lied repeatedly to FBI officials over and over again. And then what he was doing, he was the one who was involved with leaking this information, and he actually had the gall to reprimand other people who were underneath him, trying to act like they were the ones that were leaking it. So his firing was absolutely justified, and I think this whole Comey-McCabe era in the FBI has done a lot of damage to the Bureau.
Do you think the IG will criticize James Comey through all this?
I think when the full report comes out, I think there will be criticism of Comey. I mean, remember, this is a guy who he claims that Loretta Lynch was conflicted for dealing with the Hillary Clinton case, and yet he took it upon himself to make the decision to say, yes, even though she had classified information on her server, even though she was grossly negligent, we don't think a prosecutor would take this case. That was not his decision to make. He usurped her role, and I think the consequences that flowed for that, have been very bad for the country. And then, oh, by the way, look how they conducted the Clinton case. They didn't use search warrants. They weren't doing grand juries. They weren't sending subpoenas. They weren't pursuing obstruction of justice when they bleach-bitted the emails. They didn't pursue false statements against Cheryl Mills. So the way that case was handled, I think, was disastrous, and I think the effects are really still with us today.
Congressman, very quickly, we're almost out of time, but just this report also raises some questions about Loretta Lynch. Your thoughts?
Big questions, because were there people at Justice telling McCabe to shut this down, saying we shouldn't be doing the Clinton Foundation because Hillary's running for president? We need more investigation in that. I'm hoping the full IG report will answer that question. But that was a very, very troubling, although unfortunately not surprising, component of the McCabe report.
All right, more to come. Congressman DeSantis, great to see you this morning.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you.
All right, Congressman Keith Ellison is at it again.
Women are dying because we are losing elections. Yeah. We don't have the right to lose a damn election.
What is he talking about?
And President Trump taking evil head on with the strikes in Syria. So why is it so important we take down these rogue regimes? We're going to ask two retired U.S. military members, one a Purple Heart recipient, the other a double amputee who lost his legs in Afghanistan. It is a conversation you do not want to miss. That is coming up right after the break.
Best Western rewards you in a flash. With points that never expire, earn a free night fast at over 4,200 hotels worldwide. Book now at bestwestern.com and get a $10 gift card with every stay.
Action. Dogs love my Nutrish treat. Whoa!
Real meat treats from Rachel Ray Nutrish, inspired by recipes from Rachel's Kitchen. U.S. beef or chicken is the first ingredient. Treats from Nutrish. Real recipes, real ingredients, real good.
Bzz. Bzz, bzz. I'm your phone. Stuck down here between your seat and your console, playing a little hide and seek. Cold. Bzz. Warmer. Bzz, bzz. Warmer. Boiling. Jackpot. And if you've got cut rate car insurance, you could be picking up these charges yourself. So get Allstate, where agents help keep you protected from mayhem. Like me.
Mayhem is everywhere. Are you in good hands?
Baby boomers, here's something you should know. There's a serious virus out there that 1 in 30 boomers has, yet most don't even know it. A virus that's been almost forgotten. It's hepatitis C. Hep C can hide in the body for years without symptoms. Left untreated, it can lead to liver damage, even liver cancer. The only way to know if you have Hep C is to ask your healthcare provider for the simple blood test. If you have Hep C, it can be cured. For us, it's time to get tested. It's the only way to know for sure.
Never more ready to fall in love again. Never more ready to fall in love again.
Don't miss Scott's Days at your local Ace.
Our biggest lawn and garden sale of the spring.
Right now, buy any bag of Scott's fertilizer and get a free $5 reward. Hurry in for great deals throughout the store. Now through Monday at Ace.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Meet the Sarahs. This Sarah deals with bladder leakage by wearing pads, taking medication, and carrying an extra set of clothes. This Sarah used a non-prescription device called Apex M in the comfort of her own home just 10 minutes a day. In just weeks, her bladder leakage was resolved with no side effects. Don't have a problem. Cure yourself with Apex M from In Control Medical. No pills, no pads, just dry.
With our laser-measured floor liners and cargo liners, all new bump step XL, side window deflectors, and no-drill mud flaps, WeatherTech provides the ultimate protection for your vehicle. Go to WeatherTech.com to order yours today and see our full line of automotive accessories. Nothing protects like WeatherTech.
Some quick headlines for you, starting with extreme weather. Cities across the Midwest are under snow emergencies. The treacherous storm claiming at least 3 lives in Minnesota. Troopers responding to more than 400 crashes across the state. Wow. Blizzard conditions forced the Nebraska governor to declare an emergency. Some parts are expected to receive up to 18 inches of snow. This same brutal system now heading to the East Coast. And thousands of Americans fighting for their Second Amendment rights with a nationwide protest.
Second Amendment is the reason the nation is still free. The ownership of guns provides a balance of power.
Once that's gone, then there goes the free speech next.
The National Constitutional Coalition of Patriotic Americans held peaceful protests in more than a dozen states. And Boston is marking the 5th anniversary of the marathon bombings as runners prepare for tomorrow's race. In just hours, a wreath will be laid on the finish line in remembrance of the victims. About 30,000 participants are expected to run tomorrow. Pete?
Griff, thanks. Well, President Trump leading the charge against the Assad regime's chemical attack on its people with a strike in Syria.
The evil and the despicable attack left mothers and fathers, infants and children thrashing in pain and gasping for air. These are not the actions of a man. They are crimes of a monster.
So why is it so important for the U.S. to take a stand and fight evil head on? Here with their take, retired Army Staff Sergeant Robert Bartlett, who is a Purple Heart recipient, an Iraq War veteran, and he's with Americans United Against a Nuclear Iran. and Rob Jones, a retired Marine and double amputee who lost his legs in Afghanistan. Robert and Rob, thank you for your time. Thank you for your service and your sacrifice in both of those theaters. You know these evils firsthand. You've seen them. Robert, let me start with you. You were hit ultimately by an Iranian-made weapon on the battlefield. You know how dangerous Iran is. Iran has a stake in Syria and propping up Assad. What's the best thing for America to do for A, our own interests, and B, to deter Iran?
The policy change of engagement. We've watched over the years, time and time again, whether it's Darfur, Iran, Saddam, any of these nations stand back and just continue to destroy their own people, and we've done nothing, or we wait too long. To include Hitler, we waited too long and millions died. So it's important that we strike hard and we strike them quick and try to take some of these regimes out so there's some kind of regime change, and then deal with the new one that comes in after that. That's how I see it. I'm sick of watching people die. You know, they say we don't care about Muslims or other people, but then we watch them die on TV and they say, oh, well, you shouldn't have struck without, used weapons without consulting us. It just doesn't make any sense. Rob, can't buy off bad regimes.
Rob, an understandable perspective. However, if you cut off the head of the Assad regime, you know, who's waiting in the wings? These rebels, a lot of them affiliated with ISIS. That's a difficult choice to make, Rob.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's usually the go-to or whatever, but how is it going to be any worse or any different than what we have now? Assad is more organized than what we're going to have to deal with past Assad, you know? Well, you can try to say, okay, well, ISIS is going to do better or going to be worse. Well, they're all bad. Bad is bad.
They're all bad. No, Rob Jones, I mean, that's true. These are no good options, all bad options. The Trump administration would say, but why do we want to get bogged down in occupying yet another country when the outcomes of our other occupations haven't worked out the way we wanted? Rob Jones.
Well, you know, I think what we really need to be considering here is, you know, we can have rules and we can say what these are the rules are, but it's what you allow people to do that matters. So we can have Geneva Conventions, but if we don't enforce those conventions, then you know, what purpose are they really serving? So I think we had a responsibility in this particular case to act.
Rob Jones, do you think it was enough? Was this the right signal to send, or should we have done more?
Well, I think there's so many different considerations with something like this that I think General Mattis made the right decision here, and I trust what decisions he makes personally.
Well, no, I think there's a lot is invested in ultimately our leaders and believing that they've got the best interest of our country. Robert Bartlett, what is Iran's calculation here as they seek a nuclear weapon, and Russia's? Are they going to double down in their support of Assad, do you believe? Or will this force them to walk back a little bit from propping up a regime that's gassing its people?
To be honest with you, I think I see Russia as a big problem here, obviously, because Iran and Assad and Syria are basically pawns in the big game, right? Since the collapse of the USSR, it's like they're their new pawns, or these other outliers that are cause troubles for the United States, and anything that causes trouble for the United States is a positive for them. So they'll always back them, you know, just like they did Saddam or anything else. You can look at the weapons, you know where the support's coming from. So
yeah, absolutely, as you know all too well, in Iraq, the technology support, people, it all matters. And for Assad, he's clinging to Russia and Iran, no doubt. Robert Bartlett and Rob Jones, thank you for your service to this country and your insight today on this topic. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your service.
You got it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right, well, coming up, one Democrat unleashes after attacks on James Comey and Bob Mueller.
Let's have that conversation about whether Jim Comey made the right move in talking about the Hillary Clinton thing. But people will rot in hell for besmirching the reputation, the integrity, and the professional history of these two men.
Rot in hell. Dan Bongino here to respond next. Plus, we've got a big show. David Bossie, Heather Nauert, we know her well. Former Senator Joe Lieberman will be live here on set, and Sarah Carter, all here live, coming up.
This is a collaborative, improvisational conversation about politics and life.
Everybody at The Five comes with a background and an expertise.
No one says news has to be boring.
No scripts, nothing.
People love the show because we make them think.
And at 5 o'clock, you get the hard stuff and we dissect it up top. And then at the end of the show, we give you a little dessert.
We're telling you what we think. And we are speaking, it turns out, for a lot of people.
For incredible flooring deals, get to Lumber Liquidators. This week, take up to 40% off customer favorites. Get best-selling waterproof floors on sale. Solid Palm Acacia hardwood is 30% off. Get more from 59 cents plus special financing. Get to Lumber Liquidators by Wednesday.
Attention men with frequent urges to urinate. Super Beta Prostate has ingredients clinically tested to help reduce urges to urinate and waking at night to urinate. That's why it's the #1 best-selling prostate supplement in America. Don't wait. Try non-prescription Super Beta Prostate.
We're home.
Let's go.
What kind of SUV is that?
It's a brand new Buick Enclave.
That really makes it easy to unload all those little maniacs.
Sure does.
Hey, honey, we should get one of those and have like a ton more kids.
Yeah, I love that. More kids.
Yeah.
Introducing the all-new Buick Enclave, tomorrow's SUV for today's family. Current lessees, switch to Buick and get this low-mileage lease on this 2018 Buick Enclave for around $369 per month.
At Farmers, we've seen almost everything, so we know how to cover almost anything, even close claws.
We took your shortcut, which was a bad idea. You doing? I can't believe that worked! No, I got the keys.
And we covered it. Talk to Farmers. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Getting to know you, getting to know all about you, getting to like you, getting to hope you like me.
Know how your DNA connects you to the world at 23andme.com.
1, 2, 3, listen.
Okay, I never thought I'd say this, but I found bladder leak underwear that's actually pretty. Surprised? It's called Always Discreet Boutique. It looks and fits like my underwear. I know what you're thinking. How can something this pretty protect? Hidden inside is a super absorbent core that quickly turns liquid to gel for incredible protection. So I feel protected and pretty. Always Discreet Boutique.
Online dating? I know people meet that way, but where would I even begin?
Open laptop, go to OurTime.com, look for free. It's easy to take a look on OurTime, the fastest growing dating site for people over 50.
At just $24.99, Ruby Tuesday's new dinner for two is bringing everyone together. Endless trips to the garden bar.
Wicked garden bar.
Choose 2 of 7 entrees. I say Ruby, you say? Can I just eat? And a dessert to share.
Halo!
Dinner for 2 at Ruby Tuesday.
President-elect Trump's first question was to confirm that it had no impact on the election. And then the conversation, to my surprise, moved into a PR conversation about how the Trump team would position this and what they could say about this. They actually started talking about drafting a press release. The intelligence community does intelligence. The White House does PR and spin.
That is James Comey. Here to react now, we'll bring in Dan Bongino, former NYPD officer, former Secret Service agent, and the host of the Dan Bongino Show. Dan, you've seen what we've seen so far, which has been publicly released, the larger interview tonight. But so far, your takeaway on how Comey has tried to position the impression of himself in the media.
Well, it's funny that he says, well, you know, the intelligence community does intelligence and then the White House does spin. There is no bigger spinster out there than Jim Comey. He is spinning. This guy is the founder of the feast when it comes to political spin. Let's just walk through quickly the case against Jim Comey, because it's crystal clear how horribly he handled this whole situation. He failed to notify Congress, Pete, this is on the record, for 8 months about the most sensitive investigation possibly in modern U.S. history, the spying operation on U.S. Trump. And by the way, Pete, in case any of the viewers are thinking, well, he had to wait because it was sensitive, no. There are quarterly briefings with select members of Congress where they're supposed to brief them on that. He also screwed up the FISA-Gate scenario, where he failed to vet the information used to spy on potentially innocent American citizens. Screwed up the Flynn case. He screwed up the Hillary case. This guy is going to be remembered only as a cautionary tale for future FBI agents on what not to do.
All right, so I want to get your take on this. Representative Jim Hines, who is a congressman from Connecticut, has some pretty strong words about people that have attacked James Comey, Robert Mueller. Here he was on another program just a couple days ago. Take a listen.
You're seeing a classic Washington story where when the facts are ugly for your man, you attack the character and personality of the person who's pushing those facts. Kate, I was at the Department of Justice 1 hour ago. Jim Comey is a legend there. He's a legend within the FBI. Let's have that conversation about whether Jim Comey made the right move in talking about the Hillary Clinton thing. But people will rot in hell for besmirching the reputation, the integrity, and the professional history of these two men.
Ooh, Dan.
How your soul is at issue, Dan.
And Dan, let me just add to this question we're asking you to react is, does Andrew McCabe then go straight to hell? Because in the Office of Inspector General report put out by the DOJ, it appears that McCabe's counsel put out a letter besmirching Comey's portrayal of him.
You know who's really going to rot in hell? The people who spied on and used the Constitution as a Kleenex, innocent American citizens, in order to alter the outcome of a presidential election. And yes, we're talking about the Democrats. And Himes knows this. Here's the problem. You know, the lights are coming on and the cockroaches are scurrying around trying to get away. Himes fully understands here that when the light is shown on this process and we see that Democratic operatives paid foreign intelligence operators for information on a presidential candidate in a U.S. election with the intent on besmirching his character and his team to alter the outcome of an election, the American public instinctively goes, because they've been propagandized by the media, oh, you mean Trump collusion? No, we mean Democrat collusion with foreign intelligence operators, both British and Russian. Himes knows that, and that's why he's saying that, because he's trying to dissuade people from looking into what really happened here.
All right, well, there are a lot of interesting nuggets coming out of this book, and the interview is tonight, and we'll get a lot more from that. But in the book, Comey hints at some damaging material involving ex-Attorney General Loretta Lynch. He says still unknown to the American public, and according to one article, says that it is sparking furious speculation inside and outside of the Beltway. What is your take on that?
Well, this is interesting. I have some pretty good contacts on this one. I think it could be a series of emails on a private server, which wouldn't surprise anybody. We know Hillary Clinton obviously had hers. We know there's a history of doing it with the Obama EPA and other places in the Obama administration. I'm pretty confident it's probably a series of private emails between Loretta Lynch or her office on a private email account that don't make the former Attorney General look very good with regard to the Hillary email investigation.
Interesting. So more behind the scenes tilting of the scales, you might say, toward the Hillary folks is what you think this may be.
You're darn right. That's what I think it may be. Absolutely. Yes.
Right. So, Dan, just very quickly, because we're almost out of time, do you think we learn more about Lynch in the Horowitz's report, the fuller one? Because we've only seen the part about Andrew McCabe. Do we get more in this?
Yes, I think the stroke, we have not seen all the documents. Remember, there's up to 1 million potential documents in this case. We've only seen a small fraction of them. Yes, I think Loretta Lynch, that's why I said in the show, what was it, last week? I think Loretta Lynch should get an attorney and get one, and a good one, real fast.
All right, well, more to come. Dan, always good to see you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Happy Sunday. Thanks so much. All right, turning out to some other headlines we are following closely this morning. Apple is sending an internal memo with a strong warning to leakers. Ironically, the memo leaked to Bloomberg reveals the company caught 29 employees and had 12 arrested. It describes in harsh terms for those who get caught in part. These people not only lose their jobs, they can face extreme difficulty finding employment elsewhere. Of course, this comes nearly 6 years after CEO Tim Cook claimed Apple would double down on secrecy on products. Also this, Liberal Congressman Keith Ellison is at it again. The Minnesota representative making this claim.
Women are dying because we are losing elections. We don't have the right to lose a damn election.
Well, the vice chair of the DNC referring to maternal mortality rates while speaking to a group of so-called progressives in Washington. And House Majority Whip Steve Scalise is reportedly backing Kevin McCarthy for Speaker of the House. The representative's office telling Politico Scalise is focused on keeping the conservative agenda moving forward. This as retiring House Speaker Paul Ryan announcing his endorsement for McCarthy in a Meet the Press interview airing later this morning.
I fully anticipate handing the gavel over to the next Speaker of the House after this term. And I think Kevin's the right guy to step up.
Ryan will retire as Speaker when his term ends in January. Those are some headlines.
Keep an eye on a Jim Jordan dark horse candidacy as well. A lot of conservatives frustrated with leadership and feel like a Freedom Caucus member.
So before Ryan's term ends, or
no, at the end. I mean, at the end when it comes up. Well, we'll see. All right. Well, still ahead. The world watching as action is taken in Syria. So how will it affect the markets? We're breaking it down coming up next.
Plus, David Bossie, Heather Nauert, former Senator Joe Lieberman, and Sarah Carter, all here live. That's coming up.
Cut the cord. Are we human? Or are we dancer?
Roundup for Lawns has arrived to put unwelcome lawn weeds to rest. So draw the line. Roundup for Lawns is formulated to kill lawn weeds to the root without harming a single blade of grass. Roundup, trusted for over 40 years.
The ADT yard sign stands watch over your home and family with 140 years of tested, trusted, 24/7 protection. Now get our lowest rate for fast response monitoring at just $28.99 a month. About $1 a day. Call today.
What pushes us further than our best?
Is it the competition? Or a personal test?
Or perhaps it's a hybrid of both. Your best is always ahead.
Because better is a never-ending quest.
Introducing the all-new Accord Hybrid. Now, North American Car of the Year for 2018.
Great. Another dead end.
Sarge, I just got a tip that'll crack this case wide open. Turns out the prince at the crime scene...
Did McGruffy Wuffy get a tippy-whippy?
I'm serious. We gotta move fast before...
Who's a good boy? Is him a good boy?
I'm just gonna go.
Oh, you wanna go outside? You gotta go tinky poo-poo.
I already went, okay? In the bathroom.
As long as people talk baby talk to dogs, you can count on Geico saving folks money. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Don't waste your time and money at the chain store. They got the best auto parts, brake parts, suspension parts, and dealer parts too. The website's so easy to use. The lowest prices and fast delivery too. All the parts your car will ever need. All the savvy folks are buying parts at RockAuto.com. All the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com.
At Wayfair.com, we think that when the big stuff ships free, it's just better.
Cover better, brunch better, crunch better, rock better, roll better, whoa better, dream better, clean better, yeah, better!
Oh, Wayfair has free shipping. Game changer.
Fast better, free better, everything's better when
Get
it's
free shipping on orders over $49. Shop better at Wayfair.com.
Wayfair, you've got just what I need.
You thought that bandage would protect me? See the new skin over there? How could you not know it's the flexible liquid bandage? It seals out bad stuff like water and dirt. Hey, there's a spray too.
New Skin. Apply, seal, heal.
Dry mouth? Use Smart Mouth with Moisture Lock technology. It's the only dry mouth rinse that relieves bad breath for 12 hours with only one use. Available at drugstores, supermarkets, and elsewhere.
Welcome back. Well, America and our allies firing more than 100 missiles at 3 military targets in Syria this weekend. And President Trump warns there will be more if Assad dares carry out another chemical attack.
So what does this mean for the economy, and what can we expect when the markets open tomorrow? Professor Brian Brenberg chairs the Business and Finance program at the King's College here in New York City, and he joins us now to weigh in. Brian, always good to have you, and such an important topic. I mean, you think about tomorrow morning and the reaction that will have in the markets. What do you think?
Now, you know, in the short term, you might see markets drop just a little bit because you have this instability. But if you look at history, what tends to be the case is markets correct pretty quickly. They get back on track. These tend to be things that don't affect markets over the long term because they're limited. And the administration has been very clear talking about the limited precision of the strike here. They're trying to do one thing in particular. They're not trying to create a big conflict. And ultimately, that's what markets get a lot of comfort out of.
Brian, we've been entangled in the Middle East for decades because of dependency on energy and oil. You say that policy changes or realities of the United States have changed that equation.
This is such a big story. You know, a decade or two ago, the real issue with anything going on in Syria or the Middle East would have been oil. But today, the U.S. is producing so much more oil than we did just a decade ago. That issue is really neutralized. When the world starts to get nervous about oil, the U.S. can step up and meet the need, both here and around the globe. So I don't think you're going to see oil price spiking the way you would have a decade or two ago.
So what do you attribute that to?
Well, it's really the shale oil revolution. I mean, West Texas and South Dakota, I mean, this is where you see the production coming online. You see much more supply than ever before. Over the next several years, 80% of global oil growth is going to come from the United States. I mean, that is the thing that will stabilize global markets when you have conflict like this. So from a U.S. perspective, this is great news. That technology has made a big difference, and it's the kind of thing that can continue to make a big difference into the future.
Because I in particular think about Russia. The reason they are still have any power is because they are so oil independent. People rely on Russia all over Europe for that oil. A reminder to us to get on our game, too.
Russia, Iran, all the big actors here have oil as their big lever. The U.S. can now walk onto the world stage and say, we've got enough oil to take care of our needs to help continue to foster global growth. The U.S. gets to play a very helpful role in that regard, but it's because we have this strategic asset that we've cultivated.
Brian, I thought we were a future was solar panels. Like, you're making environmentalist heads explode right now.
Well, look, they should be very, very happy that the U.S. can play the stabilizing role. Oil is helpful when it comes to peace. Oil is helpful when it comes to peace, and the U.S. can play a big role there.
Such a great point. Brian, always good to have you on the show.
Good to be here.
All right, well, the media quick to mock the president for saying mission accomplished yesterday on those Syria strikes.
Mission accomplished. Really not a wise thing to tweet.
What does mission accomplished mean?
Mission accomplished. Now, that's an interesting choice of words.
All right, well, is this just another attempt to create controversy where there is none? That's coming up next.
Plus, was the FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's email botched? Laney Davis shared documents with the DOJ Inspector General that he says proves it was. He joins us next to explain.
Hands go here. Feet go here. You know what goes here. And your approval rating goes here. Test drive the Z-Track Z540R at your John Deere dealer today.
Online dating? I know people meet that way, but where would I even begin?
Open laptop? Go to OurTime.com. Look for free. It's easy to take a look on Our Time, the fastest growing dating site for people over 50.
Found myself in you. I know this love is true. And I never let you go. First talk.
Elite Singles, the leading dating site for highly educated singles. Register today to love again at EliteSingles.com.
Termites. We're on the move.
Hey, Rick, all good?
Oh, yeah, we're good. We're good.
Terminix, defenders of home.
Need a change of scenery? The Kayak Explorer tool shows you the places you can fly on your budget, so you can be confident you're getting the most bang for your buck. Aloha. Kayak. Search one and done.
My mom washes the dishes before she puts them in the dishwasher. So what does the dishwasher do?
New Cascade Platinum lets your dishwasher be the dishwasher. 3 cleaning agents dissolve, lift, and rinse away food the first time. New Cascade Platinum.
It's the year's most acclaimed drama, one of this decade's best. The final season of The Americans is here. The thrilling 5-star event. Brilliant and shockingly original. Deliciously suspenseful with 2 of TV's finest performers. Don't miss one of the greatest drama series in television history. The Americans, the final season. Wednesdays at 10, only on FX.
What is he like, this Picasso?
He's imaginative, deranged, a true revolutionary.
Passionate.
He's a complete degenerate.
He spits in the face of authority.
He has set the art world on fire. Art has been my weapon, but I have to fight with my whole being.
New season, new genius. Picasso premieres Tuesday, April 24th at 9 on National Geographic.
You serve, surrounded by brothers and sisters. But it doesn't stop there. Your mission continues. We are the VFW, and as the nation's largest combat veterans organization, we're fighting for our brothers and sisters every day.
Because the VFW has a voice at both the state and the national level, we can do a really effective job at helping veterans and those still serving.
We are the voice for veterans everywhere, and together we cannot be ignored.
Hiring was always a huge challenge. Endless hours on job sites with not a lot to show for it. Then, I found ZipRecruiter. They figured out hiring. I post my job, they put it all over the web, and they send me the right people, because their technology is smart. ZipRecruiter often sends me the right person in 24 hours.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Try it for free today at ZipRecruiter.com/Fox.
Welcome back. Well, the sanctimonious media was quick to slam the president for tweeting "mission accomplished" over Friday's joint airstrikes in Syria.
President Trump calls it mission accomplished in Syria.
The tweet declaring mission accomplished, because saying that always works well for presidents.
Mission accomplished, which is not a great historical reference there.
Mission accomplished. Really not a wise thing to tweet.
What does mission accomplished mean?
Mission accomplished. Now, that's an interesting choice of words.
Our producers are pretty good at gathering that info, right? But is this just another attempt to create controversy where there is none?
Here to weigh in, Olympic Media Managing Editor Katie Fradis. Katie, thank you very much for being here this morning.
Katie.
So, thanks for having me.
Mission accomplished. We all understood that George W. Bush stood on that aircraft carrier with a banner behind him vis-a-vis the Iraq War. But when it came to this mission, much more limited, and it's been said from the beginning, yet they run with it as if he's declaring the end of the Iraq War.
Well, of course, and here's the problem, right? They're trying to ascribe traits to President Trump as if he's some seasoned politician that should have known about this thing 15 years ago and not tweet about it. Well, he's not a politician. He's a businessman. He's going to say what he wants when he wants, and that's exactly what they did. And this just seems, you look at it and you go, really, guys? It's 2 words in a tweet. Calm down.
Right. No, exactly. And if you really want to think about it honestly, everyone knew what he meant when he said mission accomplished, right? The frustrating thing for me, and I think a lot of people, is then most of the day yesterday for certain folks in the media, this was their focus instead of the actual strikes that happened, an issue that is far more serious than, as you said, 2 words in a tweet.
Well, of course, and Abby, I think you're completely right. It's not what he meant by mission accomplished. It's what they could spin it as meaning, and it's how they could use those words to attack him. And if we're looking at the narrow scope of these strikes with Britain and with France, then yes, it was mission accomplished. But I would say, of course, that with Syria, we do have to be extremely careful with what happens. But you look at these headlines, and you just got to say, that's all you've got?
Well, exactly. I mean, you said it. I'll restate it. There was a mission to take out these chemical weapons sites, and that mission was accomplished. He's not saying we've gotten rid of Assad. He's not saying the rebels have been emboldened. He's not saying Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. Or could he also be sort of trolling this, even the George W. Bush, saying, hey, mission accomplished? I mean, there's a lot of reasons why they shouldn't take this absolutely literally in every moment. Why can't they figure that out?
Because then they'd have nothing to talk about. We're not talking about a rational approach where you look at the president and you try to be fair. They look at everything he says and does and say, how can we attack this and make it a headline for the next 24 hours?
Yeah. At the same time, you do think about national security and how, as you were saying, sensitive and serious that is. Is that a time to maybe think even more carefully about what you do tweet?
Well, I would say with the president, we've seen in the past that he's going to tweet what he wants, when he wants, and how he wants. But I would agree with you that this is especially a time to be careful with words when it comes to American lives and a potential more involvement overseas, which I hope doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Katie
No,
Ferris.
I think that's true. Katie Ferris, thank you very much for your time.
Great to have you with us
Appreciate
this morning.
All right, well, still ahead, the U.S. standing firm against Syria.
If the Syrian regime uses this poisonous gas again, the United States is locked and loaded.
Well, the strong message being sent around the world after the strikes.
Plus, David Bossie, Heather Nauert, and Ed Henry. They're all here live. We've got a big 3 hours still to go on this Sunday morning on Fox and Friends. Stick with us.
At Safe Flight Auto Glass, we know that when you're spending time with the grandkids, every minute counts. And you don't have time for a cracked windshield. That's why we show you exactly when we'll be there, saving you time so you can keep saving the world.
Average lasagna? Not in this house. Because that's no average family. That's your family, which is why you didn't grab just any cheese. You picked up Kraft mozzarella with a touch of Philadelphia for lasagna. Yeah. Kraft. Family greatly.
If you just sign that first
I'm
one
so
there.
sorry. I don't feel comfortable signing that.
I don't get the math here.
Was this the same car we talked about?
What's this dealer preparation fee?
I'm so sorry. This just is not
what we talked about.
Get the car without the car salesman. Carvana, the new way to buy a car.
Mom, Dad, hi. I had a very minor fender bender tonight in an unreasonably narrow fast food drive-thru lane. But what a powerful life lesson. And don't worry, I have everything handled. I already spoke to our Allstate agent, and I know that we have accident forgiveness, which is so smart on your guys' part. Like the fact that they'll just forgive you.
4 weeks without the car.
Okay, yep, good night.
With accident forgiveness, your rates won't go up just because of an accident. Switching to Allstate is worth it.
Euro.
I'm holding out for it.
Euro.
Till the end of the night. It's gotta be sure and it's gotta be soon and it's gotta be larger than life.
Euro. Arby's. We have the meats.
Growing up, we were German. We danced in a German dance group. I wore lederhosen. When I first got on Ancestry, I was really surprised that I wasn't finding all of these Germans in my tree. I decided to have my DNA tested through Ancestry DNA. The big surprise was we're not German at all. 52% of my DNA comes from Scotland and Ireland. So I traded in my lederhosen for a kilt.
Ancestry has many paths to discovering your story. Get started for free at Ancestry.com.
I was wondering if an electric toothbrush really cleans better than a manual, and my hygienist says it does, but they're not all the same. Who knew? I had no idea. So she said look for one that's shaped like a dental tool with a round brush head.
Go pro with Oral-B. Oral-B's rounded brush head surrounds each tooth to gently remove more plaque. And Oral-B is the first electric toothbrush brand accepted by the American Dental Association for its effectiveness and safety.
My mouth feels so clean. I'll only use an Oral-B.
Oral-B. Brush like a pro.
Your digestive system has billions of bacteria, but life can throw them off balance. Try Align, the #1 doctor-recommended probiotic with a unique strain that realigns your system. Realign yourself with Align.
Attention men with frequent urges to urinate. Super Beta Prostate has ingredients clinically tested to help reduce urges to urinate and waking at night to urinate. That's why it's the #1 best-selling prostate supplement in America. Don't wait. Try non-prescription Super Beta Prostate.
Our message was crystal clear. The United States is locked and loaded.
The buildings were targeted by 105 missiles. They now all appear to be heaps of rubble.
President Trump's decision sparking reaction from both sides of the aisle on Capitol Hill.
Inspector General released an explosive report regarding the firing of ex-FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe.
You have presidential political appointees calling the #2 guy at the FBI, essentially saying give Hillary a pass. That's in the IG report. That's the real bombshell.
Ousted FBI Director James Comey gets ready to release a tell-all book.
This is surely among the most anticipated books of the year, and it's certain to set off the president.
Comey does not mince words when it comes to describing how he feels about the president.
Here is a guy who only found his conscience and his point of view after he got unceremoniously sacked.
He does get a little petty. I don't think we need a book where he's calling out the president for his height and the size of his hand.
Dare you to
I don't. This is honestly, I think, my favorite song of all time.
Do you know what?
I'm actually not kidding.
Pete, we have a lot of similar taste in music. Do you know what movie this song was on?
No.
A Walk to Remember.
A Walk to Remember.
I know many
I don't know.
Probably doesn't watch that show, but it was Mandy Moore.
Is this not an amazingly powerful song? Dare You to Move?
It's a good song. Happy
Switchfoot.
Sunday morning to all of you.
Fantastic. If you haven't listened to it, Switchfoot, Dare You to Move. Thank you for being here. It's April 15th, Griff. Have you done your taxes?
No. Should I? Is it
I
due
want
today?
to. It's due today, everybody. Run to the Sunday. You have 2 extra days, actually, from what I'm told. April 17th is the actual deadline to get your taxes.
So I would get going on that, Griff.
Yeah.
Listen, taxes are a sore subject for me, but I will be ready by Tuesday. But I've been caught up in the news, and that's why we've got to talk about what's happened this weekend.
Yeah, there's a lot of reaction still from the airstrikes on Friday night. Nikki Haley, ambassador of the UN, ripping Russia over the Syria chemical weapons attack. Here she was speaking yesterday.
The United Kingdom, France, and the United States acted, not as revenge, not as punishment. We acted to deter the future use of chemical weapons by holding the Syrian regime responsible for its atrocities against humanity. The Russian disinformation campaign is in full force, but Russia's desperate attempts at deflection cannot change the facts. We obliterated the major research facility that it used to assemble weapons of mass murder. The United States is locked and loaded. When our president draws a red line, our president enforces the red line. We call on Russia to take a hard look at the company it keeps and live up to its responsibilities as a permanent member of the Council.
So that was Nikki Haley yesterday at the UN. You see that picture there. That picture is a vote that was taken because Russia brought a resolution to the Security Council. There's the Russian ambassador to the UN on the left with his hands down because everyone else is voting against it. They were trying to condemn the United States.
What did you think
strikes.
would happen in that meeting?
I think they're just trying to prove a point. Who voted with Russia? Yeah. China did. And Bolivia, which is a client state of China.
Well, and Nikki Haley speaking very directly to Kazakhstan, Ethiopia, Equatorial Guinea, and Peru, where Vice President Pence is, because they abstained. They did not have the guts to stand up and vote against condemning the U.S. for this precise strike.
You also just named the 4 countries I couldn't think less of. No, when's the last time I cared what Equatorial Guinea, Ethiopia, Kazakhstan, or Peru thought about what America did? Honestly, the UN proving how utterly irrelevant it is on the world stage. Well, who cares about this national security vote? If the other ones have voted, I don't know, Kuwait, Netherlands, Poland, Sweden, they should give out some more peace prizes that are ineffectual. Listen, it is, resolutions are silly. I think we should talk before we shoot. But the reality is, without the United States of America, chemical weapons would be proliferating around the world today. And President Trump stood up and said, I'll enforce your international norms with the U.S. military, with the Brits and the French together. Just think about the optics of that. Votes don't matter. What matters is what happens on the ground. People got gassed. and Americans acted, they should be thanking the world.
But also messaging matters a lot. And watching Nikki Haley there, I think she's done a great job. But reminding America, but also reminding the world, as she said, that we are locked and loaded, because a lot of people are concerned about where this goes. Was this enough to pressure Bashar al-Assad? Are we going to be seeing another chemical attack a year from now? In her words, it's if they do cross that red line again, we will then act and potentially do more.
That's exactly right. Reaction in Congress, as you can predict, has been all over the map to the president's decision. Here's 3 examples of folks that have had differences of opinion on this. Chuck Schumer, Democrat from New York, called these strikes in Syria appropriate, but ... be careful. Senator Lindsey Graham says, quote, I fear this strike will be seen as a weak military response. And Justin Amash, known as an isolationist and a libertarian, he calls it unconstitutional, illegal, and reckless.
So had he gotten congressional approval, where would that have led to?
So tell me how he would have gotten congressional approval in a timely basis.
I actually think it shows that the administration, the president, did something right here, because if you read the full statements by most of members of Congress, none of them say that they don't agree that something had to be done. And as we were talking about yesterday, it was such a delicate balance to get that right, to make sure that the mission was successful, that none of our own people were killed, and they weren't, as far as it's been reported, but also that the chemical weapons program was destroyed and that we were able to deter Assad, hopefully enough so that it doesn't happen again. But as I said, it is very delicate because there are so many different groups of people on the ground, and we could have very easily hit somebody or a specific group like the Russians who were there, and that would have resulted in a very bad situation.
Yeah, and we're seeing this mixed reaction in Congress because there was broad support to stand up against this atrocity under President Obama. He drew the red line. He did not enforce it. That failed. Now President Trump saying we are going to do it. And as I mentioned before, the 3 words that Lieutenant General McKenzie mentioned at that press briefing yesterday: precise, overwhelming, effective. I think that's right where it is.
You can't let rogue dictators run wild. President Obama set a red line he said he was going to enforce, and he never did. Trump just enforced Obama's red line. We live in a world where we're going to need red lines in the future. Whether it's South China Sea with China building islands, whether it's North Korea and nuclear capabilities, whether it's Iran, that we're about to scrap that Iran deal, I hope, we're going to need to set red lines there. If your enemy doesn't believe they exist, they will never follow through on it. So the leftists want to enforce international norms like chemical weapons because they're obsessed with the international community and resolutions and the Hague and the UN, all this stuff that is ineffectual today. Trump understands international norms because without America enforcing them, as I said before, no one else enforces them. So Lindsey Graham doesn't like it because he wants the regime change, and that would lead to nation building and investment. That's not what Trump ran on. Justin Amash doesn't like it because he doesn't want any intervention anywhere.
Right.
I think Trump found, as you said,
a balance,
the exact balance to enforce American leadership, but not get us bogged down, and hopefully send the right signal.
It was interesting, and some of our best conversations with our guests happen in commercial breaks as we're getting to know their perspective.
We should film them.
And Buck Sexton, we were talking to him yesterday, and he said something he's concerned about is Bashar al-Assad being able to just recreate the chemical weapons program within a matter of weeks because they have that material and they have support still from Russia, from Iran, from some of these other countries. How do we prevent that from happening? I think that's still a big question that exists, and that's, you hear from a lot of lawmakers, what is the long-term strategy?
Exactly.
How do we make sure that doesn't happen?
We didn't bomb every chemical facility. It's not difficult, as Buck said, to reconstitute chlorine and sarin. They're pretty unsophisticated chemicals. The idea is not, you can't bomb everyone everywhere. It's to deter them from continuing development because they know they'll get hit again and hit harder.
And McKenzie, Lieutenant General McKenzie, saying yesterday that they had degraded, set back for years their ability to reproduce. We'll find out if that happens. But I think to your point, you're right. It's stuck in that perfect balance between not getting bogged down in a Bush war and not being weak like Obama was.
Well, before all of this happened on Friday night, everyone was talking about James Comey and his book that is going to be released on Tuesday. And the interview airs tonight with George Stephanopoulos. And we've been getting some clips from that interview, some snippets of what you can expect. And one that has caused a lot of eyebrows to be raised is this moment where George Stephanopoulos asked him about releasing that letter. Remember when he reopened the investigation into Hillary Clinton emails just days before the election in October 2016, asked him about that decision and sort of what ultimately prompted him to make that decision. And here's how that went.
At some level, wasn't the decision to reveal influenced by your assumption that Hillary Clinton was going to win.
It must have been. I don't remember consciously thinking about that, but it must have been. Because I was operating in a world where Hillary Clinton was going to beat Donald Trump. And so I'm sure that it was a factor, that she's going to be elected president. And if I hide this from the American people, she'll be illegitimate the moment she's elected, the moment this comes out.
He was operating in a world where Hillary Clinton was going to be president of the United States, based his decisions based on that assumption. Just let that sink in. That is effectively, whether he was doing it consciously or subconsciously, a baked-in political bias in our intelligence agencies. And he was doing it to make her look legitimate as opposed to illegitimate. Turns out the people wanted someone else.
Well, he said his decision wouldn't have changed had he known or had the polls been different.
Sure.
But once he made that statement, it's hard to really know.
In the book, he writes also about a conversation he has with President Obama about feeling guilty about possibly costing Hillary the election. And it's a very interesting read, I will tell you.
You've read a lot of the book already, Griff.
Look, I'm a reporter. I'm looking to see if there's some facts, if he's setting the record straight. I didn't find much of that yet, but I haven't read the whole thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of tabloid stuff in there.
Well, yeah,
there's
a lot, as you mentioned, a lot of here's Trump. I mean, Trump sells books, he sells newspapers, he helps a lot of things. Comey doubles down on that.
All right, well, more on that later in the show, but I do want to bring you some other headlines we're following closely this morning, starting with extreme weather. Cities across the Midwest are under snow emergencies. Did you hear this, Pete?
No.
I did.
The treacherous storm.
My flight is canceled.
This is frightening, claiming at least 3 lives. In Minnesota, where Pete is from, troopers responding to more than 400 crashes across that state. The snow canceling an entire 3-game series between the Chicago White Sox and Minnesota Twins.
They should play that game.
Ooh, could you imagine? Blizzard conditions forcing the Nebraska governor to declare an emergency. Some parts are expected to receive up to 18 inches of snow. 18! The same brutal system now heading to the East Coast. Wonderful.
No, not welcome.
Also, the Justice Department sending more letters to sanctuary cities demanding proof that they aren't withholding information from federal immigration authorities. Seattle, Oakland, California, and the state of Vermont have until next month to hand over the documents, or they could be subpoenaed. Officials sent a similar letter back in January. Stay tuned for that. And a powerful rocket launch blasts military satellites into space.
3, we have ignition. 2, 1, and liftoff.
A combined 2.6 million pounds of thrust pushing the 20-story Atlas V rocket into space from Cape Canaveral. It carried an Air Force satellite and a free-flying spacecraft carrying Pentagon-funded experiments. The satellite will operate some 22,000 miles above the equator. Wow.
I'm just glad to see our military's launching rockets into space.
It's such a Pete response.
That's all I took away from that entire story. Launch a few more. All right. Well, after the airstrikes in Syria, will ISIS terrorists retaliate? It's a real threat that has law enforcement on high alert. How worried should you be?
And where is Melania? Once an icon in the magazine industry, are editors now turning a blind eye to the First Lady since Trump took office? We're going to debate that coming up in the show.
So true.
It's such a shame. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore like we used to do. We don't laugh anymore.
You might take something for your heart or joints. But do you take something for your brain? With an ingredient originally found in jellyfish, Prevagen is the #1 selling brain health supplement in drugstores nationwide. Prevagen, the name to remember.
At just $24.99, Ruby Tuesday's new dinner for 2 is bringing everyone together. Endless trips to the garden bar. Wicked garden bar. Choose 2 of 7 entrees. I say Ruby, you say. Can I just eat? And a dessert to share. Halo! Dinner for 2 at Ruby Tuesday.
Today's the first day I felt tired.
I've always wanted to have a photo exhibit of the faces of our community and those people that create the heart and the soul of where we live.
So I think we can make that happen.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding me.
Introducing the SUV equipped to make your first ever happen. The first ever Ford EcoSport is here.
I'm just worried about the house and taking care of the boys. Zach! Talk to me.
It's for the house. I got a job.
It's okay. Dad took care of us.
Principal, we can help you plan for that.
Hello, welcome to the Best Western Plus. I'm checking in, and I'm a rewards member. Wow, that was rewarding.
With points that never expire, earn a free night fast at over 4,200 hotels worldwide and get a $10 Best Western gift card with every stay. Book now at bestwestern.com.
There's so much clutter in your place, you wish you could erase. And the bathroom near the foyer is a mood destroyer. It's all ugly and outdated. It's time you just upgrade it. Now the Bagster bag is here, and this without a hiccup, you're smiling and moving on. And that's the joy of gone. Get the Bagster bag for your next project.
Never more ready to fall in love again. Never more ready to fall in love again.
You thought that bandage would protect me? See the new skin over there? How could you not know it's the flexible liquid bandage? It seals out bad stuff like water and dirt. Hey, there's a spray too.
New Skin. Apply, seal, heal.
Fox News Channel on Sirius XM. Your favorite shows on Channel 114. Plus, every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7. Channel 115.
Well, the NYPD stepping up security in and around New York City in the hours following the airstrikes against Syria. So should Americans be on high alert for terror retaliation? Let's ask former FBI special agent and founder of the Jenkins Group, Chad Jenkins. Chad, thanks for joining us. So obviously, when you strike in the Middle East, there's a potential for blowback. But in this particular case, we're striking a more or less secular dictator who's been fighting against ISIS imperfectly, but really fighting for his own power. Should we worry about Islamic groups striking us back as a result?
Yeah, it shows just the complicated situation we're in Syria and all of the Middle East, Pete. Looking at this, we always have to be, every American has to be keenly aware of the potential of terrorist attacks that come from those that are fundamental in their belief that they're doing the work of, of Muhammad and of Islam and conducting those attacks, which would be completely false. And ISIS is still going to be that group that tries to do that here at the United States. But specifically looking at the attacks that we conducted, the airstrikes on Friday against the Syrian regime in Douma, which targeted innocent civilians as well as the rebel forces. Those rebel forces located in Douma really would be more like-minded with ISIS than they are, with the Syrian regime. So this isn't going to be something that motivates ISIS to conduct attacks, but let it be clear that ISIS would always want to attack the United States if they could.
Well, exactly. So the concern would be if you go even further with strikes and you topple the Assad regime, you create a vacuum where rebels or ISIS have more control and more power. We've seen what a caliphate like that can do to embolden jihadis around the globe. So did the president strike the right approach by sending a signal without toppling a regime if we're thinking about it through the lens of domestic terrorism?
Yeah, it's such a finite, it's so detailed, so precision. I think the precision strike was definitely where it needed to be. I'm always, I'm a former Ranger as well, so the more death and destruction we can bring upon our enemies and Assad as being that, hey, I'm all about shock and awe, right? But in this specific case, I mean, we got to remember, we still have 1,000 ISIS-inspired domestic FBI investigations that Director Wray mentioned in December of 2017. So that threat is still there as well. You got to look at Operation Inherent Resolve. March of this year, we diminished 50%. We reduced our airstrikes against the fight of ISIS. Now that's because targets are being limited now. We don't have as many targets, but also the Syrian Democratic Forces, that are backed by U.S. They also took some of those forces and realigned them, oriented them them to the northern border of Syria and Turkey. So it's such a fluid situation.
It is.
Man, it's very difficult to make those finite decisions
you talk about,
and evaluate
Chad,
it.
you talk rightly about death and destruction of our enemies. I'm all with you. The question is which enemy as it pertains to Syria. There are almost no good options. And if you want to tamp out ISIS, which this administration has said is their focus, then not toppling Assad, at least in the near term, might be part of it. But then to the puzzle you're talking about, what about Iran, which supports Syria, which wants to destroy Israel? When you look at next steps, what would be the next step you would take if you had a crystal ball?
Very difficult to answer. I always go to the Word of God, Pete. I love your point about Iran, Russia's influence in Syria right now. At the end of the day, you know, God's chosen land, God's chosen people is Israel. We as the United States of America need to keep that at the forefront and recognize that that's our biggest ally in that area, and we align ourselves with the God of the Bible, and we will defend Israel at all costs. And with that, that goes into your point about striking this balance with striking Syria because of the influence of Iran and Russia, but then also having the fight against ISIS and those other Islamic extremist organizations that want to do harm against the United States as well.
Really important point. Iran wants that land bridge to strike Israel. Their eye is on the ball. Chad Jenkins, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Hey, have a good one, Pete.
You got it. All right, well, was the FBI's investigation into Hillary Clinton's email botched? Democrats not looking forward to Comey's media blitz either. Former Clinton counsel Lanny Davis next to respond.
Vengeful vermin. Seen it, covered it. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Old Dominion has ranked #1 in overall performance 8 years straight. Customers trust OD for damage-free deliveries and real-time shipment visibility. Our people never stop working toward perfection. Old Dominion, helping the world keep promises.
My mom's pain from moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis was intense. I wondered if she could do the stuff she does for us, which is kinda a lot. And if that pain could mean something worse.
Joint pain could mean joint damage. Enbrel helps relieve joint pain and helps stop further damage. Enbrel may lower your ability to fight infections, serious, sometimes fatal events, including infections, tuberculosis, lymphoma, other cancers, nervous system and blood disorders, and allergic reactions have occurred. Tell your doctor if you've been someplace where fungal infections are common, or if you're prone to infections, have cuts or sores, have had hepatitis B, have been treated for heart failure, or if you have persistent fever, bruising, bleeding, or paleness. Don't start Enbrel if you have an infection like the flu.
Since Enbrel, my mom's back to being my mom.
Visit Enbrel.com and use the Joint Damage Simulator to see how joint damage could progress. Ask about Enbrel.
Enbrel.
FDA approved for over 18 years.
You know, I used to be good at this. You turn 40 and everything goes.
Tell me about it.
You know, it's made me think I'm closer to my retirement days than I am my college days. I'm thinking, will I have enough? Should I change something?
Well, you're asking the right questions.
Well, I just want to know, am I going to be okay?
I know people who specialize in am I going to be okay?
I like that.
You may need glasses, though.
Yeah.
Schedule a complimentary goal planning session today with TD Ameritrade.
My name is Jordan Belfort, and I'm sure that many of you have seen the film The Wolf of Wall Street. I had it all. I worked hard to be successful, and I lost everything because of drugs and alcohol. They clouded my judgment, they caused me to make some really poor decisions, and they robbed me of a past that I could look back on with pride. Basically, they took my success away. But I got it back. I went to rehab in 1997 and I got sober, and it literally saved my life. If you're using drugs or alcohol to cope with your stress, you need to call the number on your screen right now. Don't let addiction take away your success or your dream job, your family, or send you to prison. Take my advice. Call and speak to a treatment center in our network and go to rehab now while you still have your job, while you still have your insurance, and most importantly, while you still have your life.
Welcome back. Some news by the numbers for you. First, $250 million. That's how much the Republican National Committee is devoting to the midterm election strategy. It's using the money toward preserving the party's House majority for the rest of President Trump's term. That strikes me as the right focus. They're going for impeachment if they take the House. Next, $206 million. That's how many eggs an Indiana farm is recalling. Wow, after salmonella fears, at least 22 people have gotten sick so far. Brand names include Country Daybreak, Boburn Farms, Crystal Farms, Sunshine Farms, and Glenview. And finally, $890 million. Toy tycoon Isaac Larian submitting a bid to buy Toys R Us. He's looking to buy more than 200 of the remaining 735 locations in the U.S. and most of the stores in Canada. Abby, over to you.
Yikes. Thank you, Pete. All right, well, in the heat of the 2016 presidential election, Jim Comey calling this now infamous press conference regarding the Clinton investigation.
Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information.
Well, now in his new book coming out this week, the former FBI director explains his thought process at that time.
But our next guest says that egregious move was just one of the many reasons the FBI botched the Clinton investigation. Joining us now is former special counsel to President Bill Clinton and the author of The Unmaking of the President 2016, Laney Davis. Laney, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Fine.
So you say that
Sobered.
We have not one but two violations of due process. This is what you shared documents with the DOJ's Inspector General. Explain to us what you've laid out.
That quote is a firing offense. There isn't a federal prosecutor or a state attorney general or a state prosecutor that would say that a detective or an investigator, much less an FBI director, is allowed to characterize evidence without an indictment. There's an expression in the Justice Department: we don't shame without charging. James Comey violated that rule. He should have been fired then by Loretta Lynch and President Obama.
Yet you were calling for James Comey's firing back under the Obama years. I want to remind our audience the letter, the James Comey letter back in October 2016 to Congress, which was the reopening of the Clinton email investigation. It says the FBI has learned of the existence of emails that appear to be pertinent to the investigation. I agree the FBI should take appropriate investigative steps designed to allow investigators to review these emails. You say that is one example of violating due process, right?
More than yet, yes, it's a violation of due process to reveal what an investigator is doing in a federal investigation. It is also a firing offense to publicly reveal what you're doing in a criminal investigation. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein said it's a false choice to say conceal versus speak. A federal investigator must be silent before an indictment so someone can get due process. Moreover, Mr. Comey is lying when he said he was, quote, obligated to write that letter because he promised Congress. He now knows that that's a false statement. A knowing false statement is a lie. He knows all he said to Congress is, I will, quote, look at new information. He never said, I will turn over something to you where I haven't looked. Had he looked first, we now know it took 6 days to determine there was nothing there and Hillary Clinton would be president, but he's now lying on all his television interviews, including tonight on ABC, which I saw a clip of, where he says he was, quote, obligated to do so because he promised Congress. That is a knowing falsehood because he knows the facts, and I call it a lie.
Laney, let me ask you, because James Comey also raises some questions about Attorney General Loretta Lynch. You actually say that she should have fired Comey. Is that correct?
Well, she recused herself because of the unfortunate visit that occurred on the airstrip in Phoenix by President Clinton. But Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates on October 27th, 2016, could have picked up the phone and ordered Comey not to send his letter. She knowingly chose not to. And for the rest of her life, she will know it's on her hands that we have Donald Trump as president, because she could have ordered Comey not to send the letter. And Comey himself knew that he violated over 50 years of Justice Department policy by doing anything within 11 days of a presidential election that could impact the election. But you know what? Comey gets to decide which rules to follow and which rules not to. You know why? Because he's James Comey. And that should not be. He's an FBI director reporting to the Deputy Attorney General, the Attorney General, and the President. He's not a power unto himself.
All right. Well, you mentioned that interview on ABC. It's airing tonight. George Stephanopoulos sitting down with former FBI Director James Comey. And in one of the questions, I don't know if you've seen this specific part, he asked James Comey about the decision to reopen the Clinton email investigation and whether or not the polling or thinking that Hillary Clinton was ultimately going to win had an impact on his decision. Let's play some of that.
At some level, wasn't the decision to reveal influenced by your assumption that Hillary Clinton was going to win?
It must have been. I don't remember consciously thinking about that, but it must have been, because I was operating in a world where Hillary Clinton was going to beat Donald Trump.
It was a good question. What did you make of his answer, though? A lot of eyebrows have been raised from that.
Only a narcissist who thinks he's above everybody and he gets to decide what to do would answer that way. And it's disgusting that we have an FBI director who puts himself above the law, above the Attorney General and the President. He gets to decide what's best for the country, that he didn't want Hillary Clinton to be elected without writing a speculative letter that 6 days later turned out to be about nothing. Look, I respect Comey for standing up to Donald Trump, who asked for personal loyalty, an offense against the Constitution, in my judgment. It's the only thing I respect about Comey. Everything else is a renegade narcissist who thought that the FBI and Mr. McCabe as well were above the law. They could get to do whatever they want to do to protect themselves, when what he was really doing was protecting his political rear end with the Republicans, because he thought that Hillary Clinton was going to get elected.
Lanny, thank you so much. The author of Unmaking of the President 2016.
Words there. Thank you, Lanny.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. You're welcome. Still coming up on the show, where is Melania? Once an icon in the magazine industry, the First Lady has only been on one magazine cover since taking office. This one. Our editors, are they turning a blind eye? More on that.
And David Bossie on Comey, Syria. There he is. Much more coming up.
Here's the story of Green Mountain Coffee Roasters Sumatra Reserve. Let's go to Sumatra. The coffee here is amazing because the volcanic soil is amazing. So we give farmers like Vin more plants to grow more delicious coffee, which helps provide for Vin's family. All for a smoother tasting cup of coffee. Green Mountain Coffee Roasters.
Nothing says spring like fresh flowers, so let's promote our spring travel deal on choicehotels.com like this. Earn one free night when you stay just twice this spring.
Allergies.
Or, bada book, bada boom.
Book now at choicehotels.com.
With Esurance Photo Claims, you could have money for repairs within a day.
Wow, that was really fast.
So it doesn't have to hurt for long. That's insurance for the modern world. Esurance. And also
back and forth can add up to thousands of miles. That's like mowing cross country. Gravely commercial mowers are built for all-day performance, helping you get the job done mile after mile. Gravely, built to mow the distance. The Test Ride and Win Sweepstakes is back. Test ride a Gravely mower at your local dealer, and you could win a Pro Turn 460 powered by Yamaha.
If you're concerned about your heart health, or know someone who is, then you should get KardioMobile by AliveCor, the only FDA-cleared medical-grade personal EKG device that analyzes your heart rhythm in just 30 seconds and lets you send results directly to your doctor.
Atrial fibrillation is an abnormal heart rhythm that can lead to stroke. By using the KardioMobile device, we can detect atrial fibrillation.
When you feel a symptom and you feel like your heart's acting up, taking the EKG immediately and getting that reading that's normal is a huge peace of mind.
When I was first diagnosed, I worried constantly about atrial fibrillation. And with this device, I really don't even think about it anymore. I feel like I'm in control of my own heartbeat.
I went through many years where my first instinct was to go to the ER. This is my first go-to. This is my first line of defense in getting, information to my doctor.
KardioMobile puts peace of mind in your pocket for only $99. To order, visit KardioMobile.com.
Without KardioMobile, I wouldn't know when I needed help.
This is a story about mail and packages. And it's also a story about people. People who rely on us every day to deliver their dreams. They're handing us more than mail. They're handing us their business. And while we make more e-commerce deliveries to homes than anyone else in the country, we never forget that your business is our business. The United States Postal Service. Priority, you.
When did it become okay for men to be lazier, softer, weaker? Get Ageless Male with ingredients that promote free testosterone, muscle size with workouts, and your libido. Get back to greatness with Ageless Male.
With tough food, your dentures may slip and fall. New Fixodent Ultra Max Hold gives you the strongest hold ever to lock your dentures. So now you can eat tough food without worry. Fixodent and forget it.
And we are back with a Fox News alert. We are getting a better look at the targets hit by the U.S.-led airstrikes in Syria.
This as the Pentagon is revealing more details about the operation that crippled Syria's chemical weapons program.
Lucas Tomlinson is live at the Pentagon to explain. Good morning, Lucas.
Good morning, Griff. Over 100 Allied missiles landed within just minutes of one another, launched from warships and jets stretching from the Mediterranean to the Persian Gulf.
We've successfully destroyed 3 buildings in metropolitan Damascus, one of the most heavily defended aerospace areas in the world. This is going to set the Syrian chemical weapons program back for years.
These satellite photos show 3 of Assad's chemical weapons facilities obliterated, including a research center outside Syria's capital city. Chemical weapons storage sites also destroyed near Homs, 2 hours north of Damascus. A pair of U.S. Air Force B-1 bombers from Qatar fired 19 extended-range standoff missiles for the first time in combat at the research center. And the fast attack submarine USS John Warner, known as the Sledgehammer of Freedom, launched Tomahawk missiles from the Mediterranean, seen here through the periscope. The USS Monterey fired 30 Tomahawks from the Red Sea. The destroyer Laboon fired another 7. In the Persian Gulf, USS Higgins launched 23 missiles, and about 23 missiles in total were fired into Syria from French and British forces. And General McKenzie said Russia's vaunted 4th-generation air defense system remains silent, but Assad's forces fired 40 surface-to-air missiles wildly into the air after the Allied missiles had already destroyed their targets, guys.
All right, Lucas Tomlinson, live for us at Pentagon. Lucas, thank you.
All right, we're going to bring in David Boss. You see him right here, Fox News contributor, former Trump deputy campaign manager, and author of the book, Let Trump Be Trump. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey,
Thanks
David.
for having me. Good to be here in New York.
And in person, I think it's the first time on our weekend show we've had you on the couch.
I know, it's awesome. I was here, family. My daughter played at Carnegie Hall last night with her high school orchestra. It was amazing.
And your father's right there.
My dad's
we're
here
wave
with me
to
today, so we got the whole family in town, so it's a great day to be
Great
here.
to have you. Well, we want to get your response to the president's approach on Syria. Folks on the left, folks on the right have different views. He says this is the right approach.
It certainly is a measured approach. It's a show of strength by this president. He is enforcing Obama's weak red line, right? We all know what Obama did or didn't do. This president is saying enough's enough. And it goes to... And I get very cautious about this because the Democrats have played politics with our relationship with Russia over the last 15 months. And it is a dangerous game. They continuously say he is coordinating with Putin. He is, coordinating with the Russians. It's really dangerous when you get to this level here because missiles start flying and the president has to now prove how tough he is.
Right.
To the Democrats, and it's a dangerous game. The Democrats are irresponsible and have been for the last year and a half.
All right. Well, the president then tweeted in response to the airstrikes yesterday, in the beginning of it, really thanking the military for the job they did. A strong tweet, I thought, for what they did. But then in the end, saying mission accomplished. At that point, as you can imagine, the media went a little wild over this. Watch this.
A tweet declaring mission accomplished, because saying that always works well for presidents.
Mission accomplished, which is not a great historical reference there.
Mission accomplished.
really not a wise thing to tweet.
What does mission accomplished mean?
Mission accomplished. Now, that's an interesting choice of words.
We can talk about mission accomplished and whether or not he should have tweeted that, but more importantly, the focus of the media after such an important mission had happened, and as you've heard from the generals, a successful one.
It's all they have. The media, the mainstream media hates this president, and they continuously show it. And so he says mission accomplished for that exact mission. It wasn't a bigger, broader tweet. It was something about the attack on the Syrian chemical weapons operation and our diminishing of it. And I think that that's really what this was about. And they want to blow it up into something that it's not.
Now, David, we're both from Washington, so we got to talk about James Comey front and center. I want you to see this quote here. This is James Comey referring to President Trump as a mob boss. He says this president is unethical and untethered to truth and institutional values. His leadership is transactional, ego-driven, and about personal loyalty. I had flashbacks to my earlier career as a prosecutor against the mob, the silent circle of assent, the boss in complete control, the loyalty us, the us versus them worldview. Goes on to compare him to Sammy the Bull Gravano.
Okay. This is a disgusting display by James Comey. I worked with James Comey back 20 plus years ago. I know Mr. Comey. He knows better than this, because back on a case that we were working on together, then FBI Director Louis Freeh had almost 100 people who took the Fifth Amendment or fled the country as it related to an investigation of Bill Clinton. It was a case that I was working on, and we had almost 100 people. It ended up being about 130 people taking the Fifth or fleeing the country. That's what the mob does. And Louis Freeh compared the Clinton White House to the mob, to investigating organized crime, because that's what they do. They make people flee. How many people have done that in this case? Exactly zero. There is no comparison. This guy is doing it to sell a book. It's salacious that he's talking about giving the president an apple on his desk on inauguration. It's full of garbage. It belongs on the fiction shelf, and I'm sorry that James Comey has really lowered his stature and his standing, and the standing of the FBI, in my opinion.
Well, also the timing of it, right? He used to run the FBI, and you think about the release and the timing of this book while the investigations are still going on, by the way.
It's dangerous for the prosecution. The prosecutors have to be looking into this book, saying with some nerves, because books like this can put convictions in jeopardy. And that's the one thing why this book doesn't have a lot of facts in it. Has a lot of opinion, has a lot of bravado and his own ego, James Comey's ego, attacking this president, because he simply doesn't like him. And that's unfortunately what this comes down to. It's an axe to grind, nothing more.
And he said out loud what the whole establishment thought, which is, we assumed Hillary Clinton was going to be president. All my actions were under that assumption.
Right. And I will say, and I like George Stephanopoulos, but look at where he went to go do the interview, right? I mean, George Stephanopoulos was the Clinton, communications director. So
I will say, though, there were a lot of tough, good questions from George Stephanopoulos. You can see that later tonight, but from the clips we've seen, he does push back on it.
But that's James Comey. It has nothing to do with George. It has everything to do with what James Comey's doing and how he's doing it. His whole rollout is very political. It's almost like a campaign for a politician.
Thank you for being here, and congrats again to your daughter.
Yeah, that's so great, David.
Appreciate
it. All right, well, President Trump putting Putin on notice with the strikes in Syria. So are we on a collision course towards another Cold War with Russia?
Plus, Heather Nauert, Reverend Franklin Graham, Maria Bartiromo, and Sarah Carter all here live. That's coming up. Don't go anywhere.
The ADT yard sign stands watch over your home and family. With 140 years of tested, trusted, 24/7 protection. Now get our lowest rate for fast response monitoring at just $28.99 a month. About $1 a day. Call today.
For incredible flooring deals, get to Lumber Liquidators. This week, get customer favorites on sale. Palm Acacia Hardwood is 30% off. Get new waterproof floors 20% off. More from 59 cents plus special financing. Get to Lumber Liquidators by Wednesday.
More and more people have discovered something strong, dependable, long-lasting. They've found themselves in a Chevy truck. And now you can too. See for yourself why Chevrolet is the most awarded and fastest growing brand the last 4 years overall. Get a total value of over $11,500 on this Silverado All-Star when you finance with GM Financial. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
Liberty Mutual stood with me when this guy got a flat tire in the middle of the night.
Hold on, Dad. Liberty did what?
Yeah, Liberty Mutual 24-hour roadside assistance helped him to fix his flat so he could get home safely.
My dad says our insurance doesn't have that. Don't worry, I know what a lug wrench is, Dad. Is this a lug wrench?
Maybe.
You can leave worry behind when Liberty stands with you. Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
If you just sign that first
I'm
one
so
there.
sorry. I don't feel comfortable signing that.
I don't get the math here.
Was this the same car we talked about?
What's this dealer preparation fee?
I'm so sorry. This just is not.
What we talked about.
Get the car without the car salesman. Carvana, the new way to buy a car.
This is my body of proof.
Proof of less joint pain.
And clearer skin.
This is my body of proof that I can fight psoriatic arthritis.
With Humira.
Humira works by targeting and helping to block a specific source of inflammation that contributes to both joint and skin symptoms. It's proven to help relieve pain, stop further joint damage, and clear skin in many adults. Humira is the #1 prescribed biologic for psoriatic arthritis.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Want more proof? Ask your rheumatologist about Humira.
Humira. What's your body of proof?
Welcome back. With the White House putting Putin on notice following those strikes against Syria.
Our message to Russia is you're on the wrong side of history.
Russia's had 4 years to get these chemical warfare out of Syria and has failed to do that.
That a Russian disinformation campaign is in full force. We call on Russia to take a hard look at the company it keeps.
Putin firing back, saying, quote, the U.S. makes the already catastrophic humanitarian situation in Syria even worse and brings suffering to civilians. The current escalation around Syria is destructive for the entire international system. So are we on collision course towards another Cold War with Russia? Here to break it all down is Director for Defense Studies at the Center for National Interest, Harry Kazianis. Harry, thanks for joining us this morning. So these strikes, are they narrowly tailored sufficiently, or do they draw us closer to a larger collision with Russia?
Well, Pete, they are very narrowly tailored, but you have to remember, anytime we're striking targets that are close to Russian forces, there's always the danger of some sort of escalation. What I was very worried about is that there would be some sort of accident where, precision-guided munitions that we use would accidentally kill, Russian soldiers or even Russian mercenaries that are operating there. And we have to remember, the Russians have a large force in Syria. We're not just talking about, troops. They have air defenses. They even have supersonic bombers in Syria. So the amount in different types of ways that they could escalate would have been dramatic.
Right. It's such a good point. You've got a number of Russians on the ground there helping to assist Assad, but also helping to fight ISIS. It's such a complicated, delicate situation that we're dealing with. And the President Trump, having to find that balance in dealing with Vladimir Putin. What is the best advice you have for the president understanding this situation? Because he's made it clear he wants to work with Russia because there are some important issues that we need them on, North Korea or Syria, for example. But at the same time, they continue to lie through their teeth.
Well, Abby, you know this. All the bombs in the world are not going to solve the Syrian civil war. Syria is a destroyed country. There are millions of refugees that are displaced within Syria, millions of people who have left. The casualties, Abby, are so bad that different international monitoring groups have given up trying to figure out what the casualty count is. So I think what the United States needs to do is we need to work with Russia, even Iran, anybody who will be willing to sit down with us and figure a way to end this civil war. This is a cancer upon the Middle East, and it's destabilizing destabilizing the region. There are countries that have more refugees in their populations than their actual citizenry. So this is a challenge we need to figure out, and it's only diplomacy that's going to do that.
Just quickly, do you think Russia will respond other than their political statements?
Well, they have to, because Russia at this point, Abby, has to make a choice. They either want to be a responsible stakeholder or a rogue nation, and that is not a position they want to be in.
Well, we'll see. Vladimir Putin claims his biggest regret is that the USSR was dissolved, and this is a guy with a lot of ambition. So we'll see which way that cuts. Harry, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, what happens when a gun rights advocate gets invited to speak at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School? Well, he gets turned down. At least that happened to Charlie Kirk. He's here to explain next.
And Reverend Franklin Graham is here live next hour. Another 2 big hours to go on this show. Are you ready for it, Pete?
Always goes by too fast.
This program is brought to you by Flonase Allergy Relief. You are greater than your allergies.
You wouldn't accept an incomplete job from anyone else. Why accept it from your allergy pills? Flonase relieves your worst symptoms, including nasal congestion, which most pills don't. Flonase helps block 6 key inflammatory substances. Most pills only block 1. Flonase.
Do you need the most trusted battery in your noise-canceling headphones? Maybe not. Maybe you could trust you won't be next to a loud eater. Or you could just trust Duracell.
What pushes us further than our best?
Is it the competition?
Or a personal test?
Or perhaps it's a hybrid of both. Your best is always ahead.
Because better is a never-ending quest.
Introducing the all-new Accord Hybrid. Now, North American Car of the Year for 2018.
Watch Fox News Channel anytime, anywhere. Fox News Go.
My name is Jordan Belfort, and I'm sure that many of you have seen the film The Wolf of Wall Street. I had it all. I worked hard to be successful, and I lost everything because of drugs and alcohol. They clouded my judgment, they caused me to make some really poor decisions, and they robbed me of a past that I could look back on with pride. Basically, they took my success away. But I got it back. I went to rehab in 1997 and I got sober, and it literally saved my life. If you're using drugs or alcohol to cope with your stress, you need to call the number on your screen right now. Don't let addiction take away your success or your dream job, your family, or send you to prison. Take my advice. Call and speak to a treatment center in our network and go to rehab now while you still have your job, while you still have your insurance, and most importantly, while you still have your life.
I saw a flash of you in the future, writing me a message.
What did it say?
Be careful with the monk. He's very contagious.
We're here to rescue you.
Can you get me out of here?
The Shadow King. He's looking for the weapon.
Sid's in trouble.
She lives in the future you're trying to change. And when you do, she will cease to exist.
Legion, all new Tuesday at 10 on FX and FX Now.
Say aloha to Hawaii and step through the doors into a land of elegance.
Ah, Maui. It's like the luckiest vet in the world.
With ample opportunities for relaxation.
Manny and Petty today, girl. Now we gotta go catch her again.
Experience everything the islands have to offer.
It's very swollen.
Your friends are waiting for you in Hawaii, home to the adventures of Dr. Buckeye Bottoms. New episodes Saturdays at 9 on Nat Geo Wild.
Welcome back. Gun rights advocate,
There we go.
It's mixed
You
up
got
there.
it.
Charlie Kirk invited to speak to students at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, about the Second Amendment and their rights. But then school administrators stepped in.
Kirk writing this on Twitter, he said, "It seems there has been a decision to not allow me on campus. However, I bet if I was advocating for gun confiscation, things would be quite different."
Well, here to tell us what exactly happened, founder and we cannot speak today, Griff, executive director of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk. Charlie, good to have you on this morning.
Good morning.
All right, so what happened? You were invited to speak about gun rights, and then what?
That's correct. I was invited by a group of students at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. Kyle Kashuv and Patrick Petty were kind of the leaders of that. And, we wanted to have a conversation, not just about gun rights, not just about natural rights, the Constitution, but also solutions. And I want to be very clear. My mission would not have been to offend. I didn't want to, make anyone feel uncomfortable, but instead inform. And here's what really troubles me, is that ever since that horrific shooting, the national conversation, predominantly from students of that school, has been about gun confiscations, about taking people's guns away. When in reality, we looked at the failure of the FBI, the failure of the local police, the cowards of Broward. There's a lot of reforms and conversation that needed to happen around this. And unfortunately, the administration interceded and said that I would not be allowed to come on campus to an optional after-school event where students would not be forced to attend. And I think that's a little disappointing because there's another side of the story that needs to be heard here.
So, Charlie, I think you hit the key points. Optional after-school event invited by students. Listen, we all understand what happened at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, obviously a touch point, but if you're going there to have a conversation about solutions, why would you be blocked when, say, a gun confiscation group or an anti-Second Amendment group probably wouldn't be?
Well, it's because the predominant philosophy amongst the administration and teachers is that of a gun confiscation left-wing worldview. I mean, if I was advocating for more of the, the dogmatic anti-gun narrative, I don't think I would have been disinvited. And I want to reinforce this. It would have been optional, would have been after school, and I was invited by students. I'm not trying to impose myself upon the students. I was reached out to by a group of students. In fact, I communicated with some students at the school that messaged me and they said, Charlie, I don't agree with you politically, but I want to hear your perspective. And look, there's a lot of division happening in this country. More speech is going to solve that, not disinvitation of speakers or the blocking of different ideas.
Great point. Charlie, let me just turn to my favorite topic because I've covered them a lot. Antifa, very quickly. Some Antifa folks stormed a conference in Chicago and started a fire. What's up with that?
Your conference, right?
Antifa started the fire. That's right. It was a Turning Point USA conference yesterday. Masked Antifa protesters and thugs came to our conference yesterday and started a fire, and some were charged and arrested. Look, the left hates the idea that there are other ideas, and we were just trying to peaceably train our student leaders from all across the Midwest, and these spoiled brats had to come here and try to disrupt and try to cause commotion and chaos. And look, you look simply at what the left is trying to do. They feel so uncomfortable with their own perspective and their own life. They try to ruin conservatives' capacity to be able to train and advance our ideas. And so we're not going to take this sitting idly by. They're supposed to come back to our conference today, and we're going to use local police and every tool we have at our disposal to try to prevent them from disrupting our event.
Wow. And Charlie, they're so tough that they wear masks.
Yeah,
Charlie
exactly.
Kirk.
They're cowards. Only cowards wear masks in public. Thanks for having me.
With you. Absolutely. Charlie Kirk.
Thanks,
Good luck
Charlie.
with the conference today. Turning Point USA. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, well, coming up, President Trump tweeting just moments ago and once again calling James Comey a slimeball. Ed Henry will weigh in and tell us about the growing rift between Comey and McCabe as well.
Plus, Heather Nauert, Reverend Franklin Graham, Joe Lieberman, Sarah Carter, and Steve Hilton. Wow, we've got a big 2 hours to go. You're going to want to stick with us. We're back after this.
Depend silhouette briefs feature a comfortable, sleek fit.
As a dancer, I've learned you can't have any doubts, because looking good on stage is one thing, but real confidence comes from feeling good out there.
Get a coupon at Depend.com.
Online dating? I know people meet that way, but where would I even begin?
Open laptop, go to OurTime.com, look for free. It's easy to take a look on Our Time, the fastest growing dating site for people over 50.
I don't have my wallet, so.
Perfect. You can send a digital payment.
I don't have one of those payment apps.
Perfect. You have a US-based bank account, right?
I have Wells Fargo.
Perfect. Then you should have Zelle.
Perfect.
Perfect.
The #1 mobile banking app just got better.
Does your coach use Zelle too?
Of course.
Another way we're building better every day.
When it comes to strong bones, are you on the right path?
We have postmenopausal osteoporosis and a high risk for fracture. So with our doctors, we chose Prolia to help make our bones stronger. Only Prolia helps strengthen bones by stopping cells that damage them with one shot every 6 months.
Do not take Prolia if you have low blood calcium, are pregnant, are allergic to it, or take Xgeva. Serious allergic reactions like low blood pressure, trouble breathing, throat tightness, face, lip, or tongue swelling, rash, itching, or hives have happened. Tell your doctor about dental problems, as severe jawbone problems may happen, or new or unusual pain in your hip, groin, or thigh, as unusual thigh bone fractures have occurred. Speak to your doctor before stopping Prolia, as spine and other bone fractures have occurred. Prolia can cause serious side effects, like low blood calcium, serious infections which could need hospitalization, skin problems, and severe bone, joint, or muscle pain.
If your bones aren't getting stronger, isn't it time for a new direction? Why wait? Ask your doctor about Prolia.
Nothing says spring like fresh flowers, so let's promote our spring travel deal on choicehotels.com like this. Earn one free night when you stay just twice this spring.
Allergies.
Or, bada book, bada boom.
Book now at choicehotels.com.
What's this dealer preparation fee?
This just is not
what we talked about.
Get the car without the car salesman. Carvana, the new way to buy a car.
Last year, I saved almost $20,000 in tax write-offs.
$7,243 worth of reimbursable mileage.
Microsoft brings you MileIQ, an app that makes it easy to track your business miles. It runs in the background on your smartphone to capture and log all of your drives.
I love MileIQ. Tracking my miles saves me thousands of dollars. It's the easiest app for tracking your business miles.
Download it for free and join millions of drivers that trust MileIQ by Microsoft.
A brand new video coming in showing a U.S. fast attack submarine launching missiles from the Mediterranean Sea, striking targets in Syria.
Our message was crystal clear. The United States is locked and loaded.
Some lawmakers accusing President Trump of failing to get congressional approval ahead of the attacks, as others claim he didn't need it.
I think defending people that we have in the region is probably enough of a reason under Article 2.
A damning new report by the DOJ Inspector General blasts Andrew McCabe for misleading investigators.
You have presidential political appointees calling the #2 guy at the FBI, essentially saying give Hillary a pass. That's in the IG report. That's the real bombshell.
Ousted FBI Director James Comey gets ready to release a tell-all book.
And we're continuing to get more pieces. Some of them are raising a lot of eyebrows.
Because I was operating in a world where Hillary Clinton was going to beat Donald Trump.
This guy is the founder of the feast when it comes to political spin.
Welcome to Fox and Friends on this Sunday morning, and we begin with a Fox News alert as the world reacts to the U.S. and its allies for striking Syria. U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley is standing strong on that decision.
The United States is locked and loaded. When our president draws a red line, our president enforces the red line. We call on Russia to take a hard look at the company it keeps and live up to its responsibilities as a permanent member of the Council.
This as the United Nations turns down Russia's proposal to condemn the U.S. and allies for the airstrikes.
That's right, the missile launch targeting 3 chemical weapons sites in Syria, punishing the Assad regime for the chemical weapons attack on its own people. Here to react this morning, we're going to bring in Heather Nauert, Acting Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy and Public Affairs. Heather, good morning.
Good morning, Heather.
Thanks for being here. First of all, the latest message from the State Department on these strikes in Syria.
Well, Syria and Russia can become responsible members of society. Syria can first and foremost avoid further action on the part of the U.S. and its allies by declaring and getting rid of its stockpiles of chemical weapons. We have watched and seen for far too long as Bashar al-Assad has continued to use chemical weapons on his own people. 500,000 now have been killed since this war started.
Heather, the previous administration said 100% that they'd gotten rid of it, that the chemicals were out, that Russia had helped them do so.
Well,
did that
Russia
never happen, or did they lie
Russia
about
was
it?
supposed to help them do that. Russia and Syria, by the way, along with 192 other countries, are signatories to the Chemical Weapons Convention. That means that countries are not supposed to possess chemical weapons because obviously we can see the deadly results when those weapons are used against people. So Russia and Syria can stop stop using those. Russia can stop backing Bashar al-Assad. That needs to happen now in order to avoid further action, and they need to stop attacking their own people in Syria.
Heather, what is your take then on Russia's response? Clearly, the Syrian regime got the message loud and clear in the form of 105 missiles, but what is your take on whether the Russians are going to get in line now?
Well, Russia needs to do that. This administration has been holding Russia to account from day one. We have had many rounds of sanctions on Russia for its meddling in the U.S. elections, for what it's done in Ukraine and other countries around the world. Also, the United States has imposed sanctions upon Russian companies that have provided helicopters and other material to the Syrian regime. Without Russia's backing, Syria would not be able to kill its innocent civilians. Russia is responsible for this, and that's why we've tried all the diplomatic options. There are still more diplomatic options ahead of us that we can employ through Ambassador Haley at the United Nations, but also through the European Union and getting more allies on board with this. Our acting Secretary of State has spent a lot of time on the phone working with our allies and partners around the world, and they agree with us. Many other countries agree with us that this has to stop now.
Yeah, the president made that clear in his speech to the nation on Friday night, directly to Russia. This is a moment where you need to make that decision. As you know, the president likes communicating oftentimes through Twitter, as he has about what's going on in Syria. He tweeted earlier in the week and yesterday in response to the airstrikes. And part of the tweet that's been getting hammered by many in the media when he ended it saying, "Mission accomplished." Your reaction to all of that?
Yeah, look, saying that is an acknowledgement that the strikes worked. Not a single loss of American or allied life. Taking out 3 facilities that not only hosted but tested these chemical weapons, that in and of itself is a success. Bringing together our allies and then talking to many of our other counterparts around the world, including Turkey, China, and others, is an acknowledgement of the success right now of this. There could be more to come if Syria doesn't get into line, if it doesn't stop killing its own people, and if it doesn't get rid of its chemical weapons.
Heather, you know, time and time again, we heard the administration yesterday say the policy is not regime change. They're not looking to topple Assad. At the same time, this morning, you're calling on the Russians to stop supporting Assad. What is then the policy in that region to bring this violence to an end that serves American interests, which is President ran on America first?
Certainly. And let's remember why the United States and its coalition partners, backed by 73 countries and entities, by the way, is in Syria. We are all together in Syria for the sole defeat of ISIS. But when you see a monster attacking his own people, it is incumbent upon the United States to act. So that is why we did this. Now, in terms of solving the entire problem in Syria, how do we do that? The United States and many other countries believe in the Geneva process. That means, and it's backed by a gentleman called Staffan de Mistura, and that means a political solution eventually for Syria. It's a long way off, but eventually we believe that Syria can rebuild itself and that the Syrian people have the right to decide who they want to lead their country. We're not calling for regime change. We believe that Syrians need to make that choice. Hard to imagine that Syrians would want to choose Bashar al-Assad, but that's the overall process, the Geneva process,
well, Heather,
and that's something that we believe in.
It seems like the administration is all on the same page when it comes to the mission and the airstrikes in Syria, but you listen to members of Congress, and they seem to be all over the map. I want to just give you a couple examples. This is Chuck Schumer, who says appropriate, but be careful. Lindsey Graham says, I fear this strike will be seen as a weak military response. Justin Amash says unconstitutional, illegal, and reckless. And finally, Representative Thomas Massie from Kentucky says, I haven't read France's or Britain's Constitution, but I've read ours, and nowhere in it is it presidential authority to strike Syria. So your response just to the mixed reactions.
A few words about that. Article 2 of the Constitution. The president has the ability, the authority, and the right to defend American interests. And that's exactly what we were doing. And we were backed by our allies as well. I mean, that has been clear all along.
Heather, the message that was sent was that President Trump is not going to tolerate bullies. And we have seen that under the Obama administration's failure to bring Syria under wraps, it has emboldened North Korea, China, others. What is the message, and how does this impact players like North Korea?
Well, I think this is a great example of the world acting together to say, you know what, there's this thing called the Chemical Weapons Convention, and with the 192 signatories, countries better start complying with that. That is something that's become very clear to countries around the world. We saw how North Korea used chemical weapons to kill Kim Jong-un's half-brother not that long ago. The United States found them in defiance of that, North Korea, that is. And so I think you see the world coming together on that. And of course, not long ago, we saw that Russia had used chemical weapons on our ally, on the British, through poisoning of the gentleman and his daughter. So this is something that's really come to the forefront again. And we hope that other countries are watching. We think they're watching.
I mean, Heather, you think about your job every single day and the challenges that we face internationally, whether it is North Korea, whether it is trying to denuclearize Iran, whether it is trying to find a solution in Syria. In the work you do every day, what is the number one issue you think that keeps the administration up at night? What scares them the most?
I think you see these rogue actors continuing to create destabilization throughout the world. And some of the chief parties among them include Russia, also Iran. We haven't talked about Iran yet today. You see Iran's backing of Hezbollah and other fighter groups in Syria causing further problems for the Syrian people. You see Iran involved every single day in Yemen, where people are suffering there, women and children, so badly. And it's an issue that we don't talk about enough in the world community. It's something that the United States has sent a lot of humanitarian aid to the people of Yemen as a result. So we see Iran as a destabilizing factor, and that's one of the things that this administration has chosen to do. Other administrations failed to do this in the past. Look at Iran through the totality of its bad actions around the world, and we see that clear every single day in Syria, what they are doing, and the misery they're causing.
And potentially a change in our policy toward the Iran and the Iranian deal with another deadline coming up. It'll be very interesting to see what is your message, Heather, this morning to supporters of the president who say we elected him for his America First foreign policy that would mean less involvement in the Middle East, yet they see these strikes and entanglement. How do you balance that?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. But look, this is America first, keeping America safe. But America is not safe when there's destabilization across the world. So when you see someone like Bashar al-Assad acting, there are things that we have to do about this as the United States of America. Not only is this the morally right thing, and not only does the United States and her allies have a responsibility to lead, that's what America does best. But this ultimately keeps America safe as well.
Heather, what does it say? By the way, you keep mentioning our allies. Well, this was Prime Minister Theresa May's first such action. She did it without the approval of Parliament. Emmanuel Macron standing with Trump. What does that say? What is the message there?
You know, it's funny because some people around the world say that the United States has lost its allies, that the United States is not taking a leadership position. This shows the exact opposite of that. We can have disagreements with our closest allies, the UK and France, about other matters, but when it comes down to it, we all stand together. You saw that in our actions in the United Kingdom. You saw that when the United States kicked out 60 spies from Russia here in the United States. Abby, your dad knows that far too well, and the sacrifices that our people have made at our embassy and posts in Russia as well. The United States stands behind our allies, and that is something that's very clear.
All right, a lot on your plate, Heather. It was great having you on this morning.
Thank you, Heather.
And great to see you.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of the Sunday. All right, the president asking the nation to join him in prayer after taking decisive action in Syria. Reverend Franklin Graham says the president understands the power of prayer. He joins us just ahead.
And the DOJ Inspector General report revealing explosive details on how Andy McCabe lied to investigators. But does it also show a growing dispute between the former FBI deputy director and his former boss, James Comey? Ed Henry, here to weigh in. He's been everywhere.
I think he picked out his own picture.
And his own song.
I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere.
If you spit blood when you brush or floss, you may have gum problems and could be on the journey to much worse. Try Parodontax toothpaste. It's clinically proven to remove plaque, the main cause of bleeding gums, for healthy gums and strong teeth. Leave bleeding gums behind with Parodontax toothpaste.
We're finally back out in our yard.
But so are they.
Introducing Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action. It kills weeds, prevents crabgrass, and feeds so grass can thrive. Guaranteed.
Our backyard is back.
This is a Scott's yard.
Mom, Dad, hi. I had a very minor fender bender tonight in an unreasonably narrow fast food drive-thru lane. But what a powerful life lesson. And don't worry, I have everything handled. I already spoke to our Allstate agent, and I know that we have accident forgiveness, which is so smart on your guys' part. Like the fact that they'll just forgive you.
4 weeks without the car.
Okay, yep, good night.
With accident forgiveness, your rates won't go up just because of an accident. Switching to Allstate is worth it.
Hey, renovators. Time to dream bigger.
Wayfair, you're my new secret weapon. You got what I need for my renovation. I love all these options, so much to choose from. Bedrooms and basements, even my kitchen, your service is sweet. And my job is complete. Wayfair, here I come.
Start your renovation at wayfair.com.
For the ultimate protection for your vehicle's floor, you need WeatherTech floor liners. Get complete coverage of your floor, including the front, middle, back, and even up the sides. And our cargo liners are also laser measured for a perfect fit. Nothing protects like WeatherTech. Order yours today at WeatherTech.com. WeatherTech. Complete protection, completely American made.
There's so much clutter in your place, you wish you could erase. And the bathroom near the foyer is a mood destroyer. It's all ugly and outdated, it's time you just upgrade it. Now the Bagster bag is here, and this mess will disappear. So you schedule a pickup, it goes off without a hiccup. You're smiling and moving on, and that's the joy of gone. Get the Bagster bag for your next project.
You know, I used to be good at this. You turn 40 and everything goes.
Tell me about it.
You know, it's made me think I'm closer to my retirement days than I am my college days. I'm thinking, will I have enough? Should I change something?
Well, you're asking the right questions.
Well, I just want to know, am I going to